My name is Templin. I live in Norfolk, Virginia. I began seeing Dr. Boyd Haynes probably 3 or 4 years ago. I had a total hip replacement in 2007 on my left hip. It was by a surgeon in Norfolk, and it was one of the hips that was on recall. Just through all that stuff with that hip, I felt like I wanted to change my surgeon, and Dr. Haynes certainly was highly recommended by everyone that I spoke to. I was pretty much put right at ease the first time I talked to him. I don't know whether he really remembers every patient, but I certainly feel like he does when he walks into that room. So I really just kind of basically saw him for checkups for 2 or 3 years. In the past year, the right hip was getting increasingly painful. Really probably waited a bit long to come to him. The pain was pretty acute by the time I came in April. I go back and forth to Oklahoma to visit grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and I drive, and I realized that I was to the point where I don't think I could have made that drive. I think it would have been too painful to do that, and I think that was one of the big things that prodded me on to getting it done right now. I wasn't really able to do a lot of the gardening. Working in the flower beds is probably one of my greatest loves, and I really couldn't do that. Walking on sand at the beach was really just, yeah, it just impeded my whole enjoyment of going to the beach when I knew that I was going to have to have that painful walk over the sand. I came to see him in April, and much to my surprise, he said he could do it on May the 3rd. And I said, well, I have vacation in July, and I really want to be able to enjoy my vacation. Will I be recovered by then? And he said, yes. So May the 3rd, had my surgery. It was absolutely, well, I won't say painless, but it was flawless. Everything went very smoothly. The hospital staff, the staff from Dr. Haynes' office, everything was just a pleasure, if I can really say that about a surgery. That pain was gone immediately. Immediately after surgery, there was no pain. I went home the next day. Probably the worst part of the whole surgery was the ride home the next day in the car. Other than that, there were no problems at all. I did do physical therapy at home for the week to 10 days. I returned to Dr. Haynes at 2 weeks, and I asked him then on my vacation, would I be able to do all the activities, the kayaking and the swimming and the chasing grandchildren that I wanted to do, and his answer to every question was always yes. After the home visit stopped, I resumed going to the gym. I go to the gym 3 times a week. I walk on the treadmill. I do a stationary bike, and just for fun, I shoot free throws. To me, after going through the other type of surgery some years ago and this one, it's a night and day difference. I had so many restrictions and limitations for the first one. I would say my total recuperation was probably a little longer than 3 months. After the surgery I had in May, by the 1st of June, I was good to go anywhere and do anything. I think it's renewed my desire to take better care of myself physically. When I can move, when I'm able to move unencumbered by pain, I'm much more likely to be physically active. Just trying to really take control of things with my own life, and I felt before the surgery I had physical limitations as to what I could do as far as taking care of my own health, and that not a pleasant outlook. You know, I had only recently stopped working. I was used to being active, and the thought of having a sedentary lifestyle was not pleasant. You build up such a tolerance to pain, and you live with it for so long that I think sometimes you're not even aware of how bad it is. And when if you can really stop and think how bad your pain is, and to know that it can be over, it can stop, that's a pretty big plus to me.